I'm the principal of the Cathedral and John Connon School in Mumbai. It's one of the oldest schools. It's 165 years old, and we are
and I choke when I say this, 3 decades in enrollment management and international student recruitment, and it's really quite an honor to be here with you all today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So in terms of the order of the presentation, we'll have Dr. Emmanuel lead the way, and Mrs. Manika Sharma, who was supposed to be here from the Sri Ram School. She couldn't be here because of a family emergency, and we're very glad that Mrs. Sudha Sahai really volunteered and to jump in to take that place and lead us through the presentation. And then we will have Mrs. Rupkatha Sarkar, who will walk us through the core of the ISC curriculum, and so that we can decode, we can understand the curriculum better. Handing over to Dr. Sonal Parmar, who will then and I'm sure many of you, if you're here from a university, have already been to her school in Mumbai, but to get an idea of where are her students heading, and what are they doing beyond school. And then we will have Rob sort of run us through what they're already doing with ISC, and how they would approach this internally to take this forward. So without further ado, Dr. Mann. And I will also give you the clicker.
It's moving, no?
Yeah. Yes, it's moving, but in case,
Okay. Thank you, Swaraj, for this lovely introduction and really making the context set for this discussion. I am very glad to be here to share my thoughts with you and also to introduce the CISC curriculum to the world. My esteemed panelists, Mr. Rob Reddy, Dr. Sonal Parmar, Mrs. Rupkatha Sarkar, and Mrs. Sudha Sahai, Radhika Ma'am, and all the esteemed delegates present here, all the respected educationists, delegates from the foreign universities. I don't think CISC needs an introduction before you. CISC is the first English medium national board in the country. Before independence, it was part of the Cambridge University. It was established by the Cambridge University and run by the Cambridge University. And post-independence, an independent Indian council has been created with the support of the Government of India. And even after creation of the council, till 1974, we were in collaboration with the Cambridge University. All the papers for the ICSE and ISC exams used to be set by the Cambridge University, and papers used to be evaluated by the Cambridge University. Until 1974, we are totally independent, and the CISC is running its show by its own. So it's a great journey from 1958 onwards. And as you can see, today there are more than 3,000 schools from all over the country and 7 countries abroad. We have schools in the Middle East as well as schools in the Southeast Asian countries. Out of the 3,000 schools, if you look at the quality of the schools of CISC, you can see a marked difference between other school boards. Quality, excellence, equity. These are all the guiding principles of CISC. And as you can see, the growth of CISC over a period of years, it's the fastest growing board in the country. Every year, 200 to 300 new schools are adding to the fold. In earlier days, the council was very choosy and very reluctant to give affiliation to schools. But now, things are changing. We need to step into the shoes to support the government. The country needs massive expansion in the education sector. And with a very positive and very forthcoming approach, CISC wants to support the government in expansion of quality education. So the council has taken several steps to provide affiliation to the newly coming up schools, and as a result, every year around 200 to 300 new schools are added to the fold from across India. The strength of the CISC curriculum, as you are aware, up to grade 10 ICSE level, so 1100 hours of learning, it's a must. Similarly, for grade 11 and 12, 1200 hours of learning. This is in addition to the co-scholastic area. Now there is no difference between scholastic and co-scholastic. Everything is part of your teaching learning process. The holistic development of the learner, that is what the council is aiming for. Well-rounded citizens for the country and the whole universe. That is what the council is looking for. So the council is investing heavily in all the areas of teaching learning, curriculum development, assessment, and bringing systems in place to support the schools for bringing quality education. So history of CISC, I have already explained you, I have mentioned you briefly. Its origin is from the pre-independent era, and after independence continued its existence. In 1958, the council has been formed as a society under Indian law, and it is recognized by an act of parliament. It has got its recognition through the Delhi School Education Act of 1973. And also the Government of India, the Cabinet Secretariat has issued a notification recognizing ICSE and ISC certificates at par with other +2 certificates and class 10 certificates in India. So there is a recognition. Also the Association of Indian Universities recognized ICSE and ISC certifications at par with all other certificates issued by the government boards in the country. In addition to this, there are about 80 countries all across the world. They recognize the ICSE and ISC qualifications at par with the A level and O level of their countries. So there is this parity is already existing all across the world. It includes the school boards in US, Europe, and Australia, and different part of the world. The core aspects of the ICSE curriculum. Why ICSE or CISC curriculum? Very conscious choice by schools. When there are multiple choices available, why schools are coming to CISC? It's because of the rigor in the curriculum and the syllabus designed by the board. There's always a demand. Those who are looking for quality, they first think about CISC. So this practice is still continuing, and it comes out from the innovative teaching methodologies adopted by the schools and ever evolving teaching fraternity of the CISC schools through regular capacity building programs from the schools as well as from the council. Capacity building of the teachers are happening, and as of now, 50 years compulsory training yearly for the school heads and teachers are compulsory for every teacher and school heads of the CISC school. It always looking into the curriculum aspects very thoroughly. Up to class 10, English is compulsory, and along with English, science, social science, mathematics, and languages all are given equal weightage. As far as science and mathematics education is concerned, practical oriented learning, experiential learning, learning connected to life, that is the hallmark of CISC. So separate assessment, separate teaching for physics, chemistry, biology is still happening in CISC curriculum. Thorough grooming. Mathematics, one of the best in the country and the world. Social science also, geography, civics and history, taught and assessed separately, so that in-depth knowledge is given to the learner, and holistic and joyful assessment is happening. Children are not pressurized. Enough time is given for assessment. All those aspects are there as part of the curriculum. Strengthening interdisciplinary studies. It's one of the core area and core recommendation of the National Education Policy and the NCF 2023. Interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approach. You cannot think in isolation. Everything is interconnected, ever evolving, ever changing. So to meet that requirement, so interdisciplinary approach is a must in the CISC schools. Vocationalization of education. CISC is the only national board that still runs vocational education. There are schools affiliated to CISC exclusively for running vocational education, the skill education. And more such schools are coming. Fostering global collaboration. The council is regular touch with international bodies like OECD, the National Institute of Education Singapore, and they are all regularly conducting programs for the teachers of the council. We have been in partnership with NIE Singapore for last 3 years, and many programs, yearly 2 programs of teacher empowerment is happening through their partnership. And with the partnership of OECD, skilling in test item development and psychometric analysis by using the data available with the council related to the examination is being planned. So empowering teachers with the collaboration and support of international organizations of high repute and high caliber, so that the CISC system will get maximum benefit out of the curriculum transaction, curriculum analysis, and the result published by the board. The quality, how the quality standards are met in CISC. First of all, the entry point is the affiliation process, the hassle-free, very friendly and proactive affiliation process. And a robust school assessment mechanism is being followed before grant of affiliation. Every aspect of school quality is checked. The teachers' qualification, the infrastructure facilities, inclusive practices, the teachers' readiness, assessment facilities, everything is being thoroughly checked. Compulsory training program for school heads and teachers. It's an annual feature. 50 hours training for school heads and teachers is mandatory in every CISC schools. Career and psychological counseling and health and well-being programs. For the holistic development of the learner. It's not only the achievement in academic that helps a learner to be successful in life. It is the holistic development, the overall development. So equal emphasis is given for sports, arts, and all other aspects in the CISC schools. Fairness and validity of examinations through standardized procedure. It's very important. The honesty, the reliability, validity, fairness in the assessment system. The examination is conducted with the strict rules and regulations and by following procedures, adherence to procedure. There's no deviation is allowed. That's why the council is able to maintain its standards all through these years. Network of quality schools. The best schools in the country are still with the CISC. From all categories, diverse community background. The best schools, if you take any best school in the country, they are all part of the CISC curriculum. And the global leaders of today, 21st century, I'm not naming anyone, but across the globe, you take 50 top global leaders, all of them are from the CISC. Recently, I have been to the Cambridge. The Pro Vice Chancellor of Cambridge University is also a product of the CISC. So that is where CISC is, and you are all knowing its benefits, and there is miles and miles to go with the collaborative efforts. So I am able to look beyond because I am standing on the shoulders of giants. These giants are here. All the leading principals of very respected and reputed schools across the country are here to support me to discuss with you in detail about the CISC curriculum. Over to you, Sudhaji. Thank you.
Warm namaste to my fellow panelists and guests. I think, sir, you've covered almost everything about the CISC curriculum, and there's very little left for me. But nonetheless, I have been a student and a teacher of the CISC curriculum. So my perspective is both that of a student and a teacher. I was told to share a little about how rigorous the ISC curriculum is. So I thought it's best that, this is a room full of educators and university representatives. It's best we first go back a little and ask ourselves, what is the purpose of education? In my opinion, it's not just transference of knowledge, but also equipping our students with competencies that will help them not just to survive, but to thrive in the VUCA world that is going to unravel before them, which it is already. That being the background, I think we should judge a curriculum against some of these parameters. Is the ISC curriculum vast enough and deep enough? And if I were to give you a few examples, because Sir has dealt with it at the macro level, and if I were to go into the details and deal a little more at the micro level, to give you specific examples, English is divided into two parts, English language and literature, each being a paper of 100 marks each. History, civics, and geography in ICSC is no longer, not from the beginning, treated as one social science. It is history and civics and geography, a separate paper. The idea behind that is to ensure that the teacher is able to dive deep into the topics. It's not just skimming through the surface. The time sums that I did when I was in school has stayed with me. I still remember that concept. So the principle of teaching is to move from simple to complex, to move from the known to unknown. It is concept-based, and it is from tangible to moving on to the abstract concepts. So, for example, if I were to give you an example of mathematics, and that's true, this principle is true across subjects, but just to give you an example of mathematics, there is an upward spiral. So while the children are encouraged to use their mental faculties to do calculations, while they are in their junior years, in grades 11 and 12, they are allowed to use the calculator because then the focus has shifted and it's expected that they understand the subject at the concept level. By then, their calculations and their tables and their mental math is in place. So these are some of the examples to explain the vastness and the depth of the ICSC and the ISC curriculum. It is interdisciplinary, as Sir said, in approach, not only in terms of subject matter, but as Sir rightly mentioned, with NEP, the National Education Policy 2020, the questioning pattern also has undergone a sea change. So in the question papers, now from case studies to newspaper articles to data analysis. In fact, I teach biology at the grade 12 level, but my grade 12 paper looks more like a math paper now. There are so many numericals. And children have now, thank you sir for that, children have been allowed to carry calculators even for their bio exams. Let's move on to some other parameters because I know I only have Mr. Swaraj, just 7 to 8 minutes, right? I'll try and wrap up. My colleagues, please give me a thumbs up if I overshoot. All right. The curriculum does enable critical thinking. And I will give you a very small example again from my own school days. In physics, we were taught that solids expand on heating. But in the question paper, when I was in school, I'm talking about my middle school years, the question that we were given was, why are there gaps between railway tracks? Now, As a kid, yes, yeah, I can see so many heads nodding. Yeah, exactly. And as a kid, I was, wondering, have I ever studied anything to do with the railway tracks? No. And then the penny dropped, and I said, yeah, I know the answer. So that's critical thinking. And the reason why it is encouraged is because the purpose of education, as I said, is to equip children with those soft skills which will hold them in good stead in future. So analysis, the power to analyze and then to arrive at the right decision. The inferences that need to be drawn through this critical analysis. So does the curriculum encourage that? Yes, it does, in my opinion. Is it rigorous enough? Probably yes. Moving on. Does it help to bolster communication? And why communication? Yes, sir, you should know that there is a lot of chatter about the English, the standard of English at ISC, because it's tough. But the reason why the focus on communication, the writing and the reading skills is so much, because I think that's an important C which helps to bolster the confidence also of children. As adults, if they are able to read well, if they are able to write well, if they are able to critique pieces, they are in a good space. There are a few more parameters that I thought were important to judge the rigor of the curriculum. Does it help to create global awareness? Coming back to specific examples again, both in history, both national and international topics and international history is taught. Now, again, there are questions around that to say, why? Again, as a kid, I have studied Mussolini and Garibaldi and the French Revolution and everything. What did I do with that? It has stayed with me. It has helped me to add a new perspective. It helps me to appreciate individual differences. I'm getting a thumbs up to say I'm overshooting. So I am going to quickly wrap up. But the last point on this slide that I wish to speak about, does ISC curriculum inculcate the spirit of community? It does, because SUPW is a mandatory component. And all teachers of ICSE and ISC would know that, both at 10th and at grade 12 level. I will move on to my next and last slide, and which is understanding how this curriculum compares with IG and IB. And again, these are some of the parameters. I would say, on a deeper analysis, what I realize is that there are far too many similarities and very few differences. And quickly, a few points of similarity that I would like to highlight here is that all these curricula offer a range of choices to the children. Children can choose from the subjects. It's like a bouquet from which children can choose anything that's of their interest. It wasn't so earlier, but I think gradually the flexibility is increasing, and these are the good practices that we learn from each other, and we must continue to do that. Something that I definitely wish to highlight, ISC also has moved away from streaming of children to the extent that no longer the toppers are declared stream-wise. It's not a science topper and a humanities topper and a commerce topper. And that's a very, very progressive step. So children in my school, the Sri Ram school, where our founder, late Mrs. Manju Bharat Ram, she was a visionary. And I cannot conclude without remembering her and her vision, because she set up a school which is so progressive, so many years ago, decided when the northern part of the country was dominated by schools from other boards, she took this decision of going the ICSE and the ISC way because she knew that this was a child-friendly, child-centric board. So the flexibility is increasing by the day. Is it rigid? Not at all. But there is one basic difference. The world knows IB. The world, sir, still does not know ISC. I think today is a beginning when the focus is on ICSE and ISC. So this is a positive step, but we need to do a little more. Like the IB offers a subject at the HL and the SL level, the higher level and the standard level, probably it's a good idea to do that. Probably like some other boards which allow children to answer subjects in installments so that there are sub-papers to a subject. Maybe even those, that's a step forward. Probably, yeah, I can see my colleagues. Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's a good step. Wonderful, wonderful. So awareness is what we need to create. But all these boards definitely are future forward. Thank you. That was my time. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have already heard from Dr. Joseph Emmanuel on the overview of the ISC curriculum. We've heard from Sudhaji how the rigor of ISC curriculum is taking children forward and the various aspects, the comparison between the curriculum and the other boards. And so therefore, going a little deeper into it, let me take you to the ISC grading system. So we have a 9-point grading scale, and it is considered 9 is the lowest while 1 is the highest. Why are we having a point system? Because we feel that you cannot limit a child to marks, just petty marks, okay? So we are being broad in our horizon. We are saying that there is a potential of this candidate who can be within this range. So therefore, we are talking about ranges and not mere marks, kindly note. So we are looking at a grading system. Now, you will also find that in ISC, we get a mark certificate. Yes, marks are there, but we also get another certificate. So every student who has passed an ICSE and ISC certificate examination will have 2 certificates. And I remember mine. It was signed by Mr. J. Fuste. So today is my payback time to speak for ISC. And if I'm here today, it is because what that system has done to me and done for my millions of students. A school that I represent is La Martiniere, 189 years of excellence. And there are students all over the world. You go to any place, we are talking of university, go to any government, go to any continent. It's hard not to bump into a Martinian. So that is the way our curriculum runs, where schools all over the world are recognizing this curriculum. If you have a look at this grading system, you have the points and they say 1 and 2 are very good. Generally, what do we say? Oh, you've just got 1, where somebody's got 9. But no, we don't look at that. We say 1 is the highest, okay? 9 is maybe lowest. But you know what? Very difficult to get 9, 7, and 8 in the ISC curriculum because assessment happens throughout the year in the class. It is not based on one examination, ladies and gentlemen. You are sitting in class, you are responding, you are doing a research journal, you are taking part in activities, you are assessed throughout. So the final examination is just a summative approach. So there is a formative and a summative approach. So therefore, we have these grades. Sudhaji has already mentioned about SUPW. We always need to look at a holistic person. Friends, the world is an unpredictable place with so many stresses. My son, who is a corporate lawyer, sorry, I'm bringing this in because we need to understand today our children don't sleep. They hardly sleep. How do we teach them to balance their lives? How do we teach them to maintain sanity? this curriculum offers so many interesting ways of doing that. We talk about bagless days in NEP now. Look at our schools for so many centuries have been already doing it. We have the exhibitions, we have the girl guides, we have the interact clubs, we have the various treks, Duke of Edinburgh program. They're all building competencies and skills that give the child a holistic life. There is a music club. Look at all the schools that are present here. Ask them. They teach and they play. They teach their children to play. We teach our children to enjoy life. So there is drama, there is theater, there is music. And you can learn maths, history, geography with all of these. So how interesting can a person's life be without this? So therefore, this curriculum is the way forward. Where, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, Dr. Emmanuel, I'm going to bring this up. Where would you find the ISC curriculum head sitting in this IC3 program to bring forward his organization or his institution? He doesn't need to do this. But he is here because today, ladies and gentlemen, I believe this panel, this time will be historic because it will make people believe that throughout the world, we are sitting here in this hall, but there are people watching us all over the world. So I believe this will create an impact in the lives of our children. How many of us believe time is money? We teach our children that. Yes, they are going to be in this world. So why don't we spend the same time and the same resources for learning other competencies and skills, like maybe a foreign language, maybe a communication, maybe music, art, theater, in the same undergrad university? Spend that time, spend that same resource, and it's a win-win situation for both the university as well as the student. So you are giving, the universities will give the credit transfer, so the student saves on time and money. But the university is again giving competency and skill and offering that same time, and the student uses that saved resource to learn another skill in that university. So it's a win-win situation. But in the process, what is happening? We are saving time, so we don't repeat the same content that we are doing in school level. At the same time, we are pushing the child or the student forward to learn another competency which is required in the life ahead for them. So I think this is something that we really need to look forward to. Already, I think the application-based process has been spoken about, how we make our children go through an experiential learning. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I will not take this further. I have put forward my case on the grading system, and I have spoken on the application-based program where time and resources should be used effectively. And I know that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You look out for a student from this curriculum, and you will see how well he or she can manage her life and his life. Look at the inclusivity in this program, in this ISC curriculum. I have a child who is autistic. She's going to appear for her ICSE examination. I have the principal of a school, my brother's school, Lamakne for boys. Ayush Agarwal, he just returned from the Paris Olympics, an equestrian, and he went and visited his school. So this is what the curriculum offers. Thank you so much for your time.
So good morning, everybody, again. I think by now you've got a fair idea of what the curriculum is. And I am going to take it forward by just talking a little bit in terms of the specifics. And I will use my school as an example. I think, yes. So at the moment, as we speak, those are all the US universities and universities across the world that we have students from the Cathedral School in. I think the names speak for themselves. There's another page after this, just to let you know. But this is not, I'm not talking about 2024 only. I'm talking about universities that our students have received offers from and have been going to for decades now. I will take you forward. And this, I think, is evidence. This is evidence of the fact that universities acknowledge the substance and the rigor that the ISC and ICSE curriculum bring and offer. Because had that not been the case, these offers would not have been happening. Or they would definitely not have been as consistent and as continued. Moving from the universities, I just want to give you an example of the different areas in which students from the school are making contributions. And Mrs. Sarkar said that, it's the proof of the pudding is actually in the eating, and this is going to give you an example of that. Before I show you that slide, I just want to say I stand here to represent not just my school, but all schools offering this curriculum. Because while this might be, a sample that we are taking from one, there are enough schools in this country that have alumni that are as eminent and have made as much of a significant contribution. So we are here in a representative capacity. Starting from scientists to someone like Salman Rushdie, to the current Chief Justice of India, to the names speak, all the Tatas. I'm very proud to say that they are from this school. The names that I have put in red are names who have gone on to contribute significantly in US universities in terms of their faculty, in terms of, if you see over there, there's a former advisor to the US State Department. Currently, we have Dr. Shrikant Datar, who's the Dean of the Harvard Business School. We also have Mr. Fareed Zakaria, a name I'm sure you all are familiar with. We have Geeta Anand, who is the Dean of the Berkeley School of Journalism. These are just some of the names. And if you look at all of them, some are from the area of art. Anjali Ila Menon, she's one of the most eminent artists. You have someone like Ehsan Nurani, who's a very known name in the music scene. The names speak for themselves. But again, the idea is all of them are from the national curriculum, each and every single one of them. So for me, I am here basically to give evidence to back everything that my colleagues have been speaking about, which is that in terms of substance, solidity, rigor, caliber, the curriculum equips students to do this in the world. And one thing that I think it's important to mention over here is that internationalism has become extremely important in the world today. But I do not believe that internationalism is something that is taught to the exclusion of the local. And I think that is one of the greatest strengths of the national curriculum, that it equips our children, it informs them about what is happening in their country as well. And wherever in the world they go, I think they're able to make connections, not isolated from their own contexts, but carrying their context within them so that what happens is much, much more substantial. And when we speak of diversity on any campus, that is what we need. We need the different voices, we need the different experience, the different contexts. And that can actually happen only when we have that kind of, sorry, this just moved. If we have that kind of, diversity that we recognize. Earlier, the metaphor that would be used across the world would be of a melting pot. But that is no longer relevant. I think now it is more like a salad bowl. And that is the beauty, because no one needs to melt and become a part of a larger whole that is homogeneous. Every single component adds the flavor by maintaining what it is. And I think that is the beauty of this curriculum. So I think that's a much better and a much more apt metaphor. And I think the ICSC and the ISC truly kind of encapsulate that spirit. Just to give you a sense in terms of numbers, this is about biology. I'm just giving you a very rough idea, and I will go over this very quickly, to tell you that 65 models covered in AP, 47 models covered in ISC, an overlap of 72%. Now, while what is covered is not covered in exactly the same way, areas of focus are different, depth of exploration is different, but there is a considerable amount of overlap. If you look at physics, there's a 93% of overlap. And I've put down the conclusions over here to say there are differences, as you can see. It's not as if, everything that is taught is the same, but there is a certain ground that is prepared that allows the conversation to be taken forward. You have pre-calculus versus ICSE over here. There's a 7% overlap over here. If you look at AP calculus, there's 77% of an overlap again. And statistics, 54%. And I think I'll stop with that. So this is just to give you a very rough idea that there are overlaps that already exist. And I think everybody sitting in this room wants essentially to take decisions that have the students at the center of the narrative. And by acknowledging the rigor, the substance, the capability of the students, the merit of the students, by considering or looking at this idea of granting them credits, I think we are reinforcing our acknowledgement of them. And we are reinforcing their presence at the center of the narrative. So I hope that is something we can all do, and it is going to be good for us all. I think it's going to be good for us all. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. As I said earlier, am Rob Reddy. To my Indian friends here, I probably do not look like the Reddy you were expecting to see here today. But there's some roots because I absolutely love hot food. And when we go out to eat, my friends and colleagues say there's at least a little Indian in you today. But I'm really happy to be here. This is quite a privilege. And I'm going to kind of go off script. I want to talk about the practical nature of how American universities, and I will apologize to any of my colleagues in the room from other countries, but this is an American perspective I'm going to provide. And some of it is my own, some of it is a perspective, I think, of my universities, and I think I can speak a little bit for other universities. But how do we take the work that ISC and the curriculum is doing and advancing students, at the high school level, and how do we use that not just for their preparedness to go on to higher education, which is first and foremost. Obviously, that's what we want to do, prepare our children to succeed. But how do we take that and integrate it into what I would call the US or the American university system in a way that not only meets your students' needs, but meets some of the needs that are emerging in the US system. And I'm going to take a minute and just talk about that. Higher education in the US is changing dramatically right now. I think many of my university colleagues aren't quite aware of that and will become incredibly aware of that in the coming decade. So what do I mean by it's changing dramatically? We'll start with internationalization. Now that's not new to American campuses. That's been going on for a good decade, maybe a decade and a half. But it's been, and I'm going to be a little critical of my own system, it's been more from a take. type perspective. I don't think anybody's going to be shocked by this. International students were seen as a stream of revenue. That's true. But underlying that, international students have been seen as a way to broaden the perspective of American students. And so while we might not be thrilled with the revenue side of the house, I think we all should be thrilled with the idea that the U.S. education system is acknowledging the need for a wider breadth, and particularly one that's not quite so Western. And so that's been going on. But what else is happening in the U.S. system? So of course, international students were very popular because of the revenue side, popular because of this growing world view that's in American higher education. But some of the other things that are going to start to really, really stress the U.S. system. Has anybody heard of the demographic cliff in the United States? Basically, what? Yes.
The dependency ratio in terms of the older population increasing and the younger population
Yes, so
declining.
that's exactly part of it. We have an aging population in the United States. Average age of an American citizen is in the mid to late 50s. But we also have a baby problem. About 18 years ago, we stopped having babies. And that is a problem. It has a lot of issues. But for American higher education, what that means also is that our pool of students that we can recruit is declining. And this is going to become a very serious issue next fall. This is when the decline begins. It's not a 1 or 2 year decline. It's a long-term systemic problem that we have. So we need to internationalize. We need to generate some revenues. We are lacking students from the US, and we are seeing a constriction of the number of US institutions. It has just begun. It's going to continue. It's placing weird stresses on places in terms of how do we change our curriculum? How do we change the thought about what it costs to attend an American university? The cost is obscene. It's out of control. It's out of control for domestic students in the US, but it's now become out of control for our international populations. And so people like me are having to start to think about how do we combat not just less students, but more students that can't really pay as much as we would like to charge, while the number of institutions constricts. So we have internal problems, we have external problems, we have challenges. We are also finally facing, quite honestly, and a lot of this I think is due to the pandemic, we'll see more research in the next couple of years, a high school population, at least in the US, that is less prepared.
Rob, they're saying if you could be there because at the end they can't hear.
I'm sorry.
Just,
A high school population that's less prepared. And so we're faced at our universities with an academic have and have not situation, where we have students in our classrooms that are very well prepared, very advanced, and we have students that need a lot of remedial education. And that's creating conflict in the classroom. So that's where we're at in the American system. Lots of things are going on, lots of challenges, lots of changes that are going to happen. And if anyone knows the American system, they know that our faculty in particular do not change quickly. They're very adverse to change. They're very adverse to constriction. They're very adverse to thinking outside of the pedagogy that they've grown up in. So we have a challenge. That's what's facing this movement. That's what's facing the ISC curriculum. How do you, from my perspective as an administrator, do the wonderful work beyond the classroom K-12? To advance your students in a way That not only helps your students, prepares your students, obviously the curriculum we've looked at here today is amazing, but how do you advance them in the American system, and I would venture the world system, that is a win-win situation. We've discussed the challenges. So what do I think has to be done? I'm going to be pretty transparent and pretty blunt. The American system does not know hardly anything about this curriculum. And so there's just the general education. We need to get American educators here. And it'll start with people like me who are coming to India and around the world to recruit students more and more and more. And we love coming and meeting your students. But you all need to take the responsibility, take the initiative to educate people like me when we come to your classrooms, when we come to your schools about this curriculum. It's going to start at the grassroots level. But we have to do more than that. The research that you're putting into what your curriculum is, this simple comparisons of AP, which everybody in the United States knows, IB, Cambridge, that comparison is digestible. That's something I can take back to my university and talk to my provost. I only get 5 minutes a week with my provost. I gotta deliver real quick. You have to feed me the capacity to deliver. And then that allows myself, my provost, to go to our associate provost, to go to our faculty, to go to our department chairs, and introduce this subject in a comparative way. That will speed up the process. We have to bring you all to the US and participate with the correct communities, with our organizations, to educate them on what this movement is doing, what this curriculum does. Because you have it all right. It's academically challenging. It's globally based. It's working on not just hard skills, but soft skills. It has vocational in it. That's what our system will grasp onto. And then you need to build pilot programs with institutions like mine. My institution will take a risk right now. Many other institutions won't. One of the first questions most associate provosts and academics ask is, who else is doing this? And if you don't have a list, it's a hard sell. So how do we move this movement forward in the face of the challenges? Again, just to summarize, you continue doing the work that you're doing. You engage in the research. You develop your comparison model. And I'll put it bluntly, your pitch. You engage with individuals like myself and others in the room. I know there's others from universities here. And think about it from the practical level. How is this going to address the needs of American universities? And then finally, you continue to show the excellence of your students. That is the one thing a university cannot argue. Excellent students. Every institution, every enrollment manager is told every year two things: find more money and find better quality students. Let's not talk about the money. It's not the most important thing. The quality that you can demonstrate is what will move this forward. So I see that I'm out of time. I hope I've provided some practical ideas about how to do this very important work. AP, IB, Cambridge is not the only curriculum in the world. What you're doing here has results, it has proof, and now we need to take it at least to the US market. So, thank you.
And that's not the end of this presentation. This is the start of this conversation, right? The idea is to really get started. And one of the most important things that we have done is we put a QR code. If you want to join this discussion, if you want to be part of this movement that we have started, please take the QR code and enter your information. If you're here from a university, if you're already doing something special for ISC, we want to know that. But over the next 6 months, we really want to put a fire under this thing, get all the universities involved, start the discussions, because as Rob mentioned, it's a detailed conversations. You're probably going to go to your academic senates, your faculty committees, your board of regents, and that is where we are starting. But as you can see, we have the highest level of support from the ISC, so that we can provide you the information that you need. So we want to hear from you. I know we are out of time, but if there are a couple of questions, let's take that before we all start moving towards the opening reception. Any questions? Yes, please.
This started when, I'm sorry, I came in late. When was this first developed? When was the ISC first?
We're actually starting the discussion here, I know that there are universities who actually provide credit. So Northeastern is one of them. They started doing this in 2020. And we'd be happy to, they have actually volunteered to share the data, because they have 4 years of learnings that the ISC students are not only keeping up with the IB and Cambridge and AP students, but they're excelling. In fact, I remember, because I saw the graphs yesterday, that in math, they actually are doing better than all the other curriculums. And these are students who have actually received credit for what they did at ISC. We'd be happy to share that also. They're in the middle of writing a white paper, and we'll be happy to share that with the community.
Hello, Ed Busas from Rollins College. Quick question. What universities in India are giving credits? Because I mean, we're talking about giving credit in the U.S. or other curriculum. So I'm assuming for us, universities in the U.S. start awarding credit. I'm assuming that Indian universities are giving some type of credit.
Yeah, in India, there is no system of giving credit. Not only for us, none of the school boards, none of the boards are getting that credit. We don't follow that credit system in India.
And I think this should be a beginning of that conversation too.
But if I can add, the
Yes.
university will be coming out with a credit system. Okay.
So yes, and I will.
Yeah, the Delhi University will be coming out with a credit system. So you will see that happening, but I don't know when. Yeah.
Actually, in the NEP 2020, if you look at the document, the whole idea is to move towards a credit-based system. And not only recognize what students have already done, but even through the university system, if they, let's say, leave after 1 year, they don't lose those credits. Today, if somebody discontinues studies after a year and a half, they have to come back and restart it. All that, at least at a policy level, is we are moving in the right direction.
It's called the Academic Credit Bank.
Yes. Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, I'm Paul from Stony University from the United States. How many schools currently are using it, and what's your projection of schools going to be using this system in the future?
3,000. There are 3,000 schools in India. And overseas, about 15 schools in the Middle East and Southeast Asian countries. Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia.
So the idea would be for all...
Thailand, UAE.
I have to bring this back to my school, and I just wanted to get able to sell something.
Yes, about 3,000 schools.
3,000 plus.
Last question,
Not a question, I just wanted to say to Rob's point of view on the demography. We in India are going through demographic dividend on the country. So we are the right population.
That's why I'm here. Okay, on that note, I would like to take... yes, one more. Oh, you're putting Molly on the spot.
I wonder if you could just speak a little... Hi, Molly Witt, University of Vermont in the USA. I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about the numeric grading scales and consistency between grades as well, as it seems sometimes like they're all over the place, and particularly, as we're getting so many applications with inconsistencies, it's hard to then determine who are the right candidates.
Molly, if you would see the grading system, it's between 1 to 9. And the marks equivalent is also given in another mark sheet. So you have both. So it's a flexible range. So if you have a 1, it would be 90% and above. Like 2 would be 80 to 90. So like that we have a range.
But in ninth grade, when you're grading your kids, and I've been coming to India for 13 years, your ninth grade marks don't match your board marks. And that's really tough on us.
Okay.
Okay. If we're going to start giving credits, it needs to be consistent. And I know you guys are trying to be really tough on them, which I understand.
Yes.
Like you scare the kids in ninth grade.
Yeah. Yes, we do. But I will take this back, and I shall discuss this and with Dr. Manuel, and we shall look into this. Thank you.
This is the idea.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's the idea. Thank you for bringing this up.
I think that's not a curriculum specific thing. That applies to all students across the board.
Yeah. Since we are a Cambridge school, ISC, IB school, it's not curriculum driven. It is across the board for all schools.
And by the way, I'm in the US. My local public school system also is doing the same thing. Okay, I think in the interest of time, because we need to give you 5-7 minutes to walk all the way, please fill in your feedback and provide it. But thank you so much again for joining us early in the morning. Thank you. Good luck.